Hello everyone, welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And today we're going to be talking about Andre Esterhuyzen, who's kind of the talk of the town at the moment after recording 3 consecutive man of the match performances for Harlequins, who are playing pretty brilliant rugby at the moment. And he is sort of spearheading what is a very formidable backline. And as a result, sort of very logically, a lot of people are now calling for Andre Esterhuyzen to have that bar call up, which is not new. People have been calling for Andre Esterhuyzen to have been called up back to the box squad for quite a while now, and there's been a lot of debates about whether he should be in the box squad, why he isn't, and sort of what the story is. And so today we're just talk about that a little bit. I wanted to do a live show about it, but due to time constraints and stuff like that, I just thought we'd come out and just have a chat about this, and then you can just give me your opinion down in the comments. So the question is, do you think he should be in the box squad? If so, why? If not, why as well? Probably more importantly, if not, why? Give me your reasons and let me know what you think down in the comments below. Right, so if we look at Andre Esterhuyzen, he has currently played, I think, 8 games for the Springboks to date. Now, there's a lot of conspiracy theories as to why he's not in the Springbok squad. A lot of people saying that Jacques Nienaber and Rassie Erasmus don't rate him, and that, he was picked back in the day when we didn't have other options, but now Dame Lindy's not going to get dropped, stuff like that. Some people sort of going as far as say there might have been an internal rift or whatever. Sort of similar case with the Prayer brothers as to why they're not playing. But that, for me, that gets a little bit too sort of conspiracy, the whole idea that there's a rift or that, they just don't like the player, which, it's difficult to sort of ever know if that is the case. That could very well be the case, but we can't know that. So we have to look at other reasons. So why isn't Andre Esterhuyzen in the box squad? And the best way to start with this is to look at the box squad itself and to see where he could potentially fit in. Now, if we look at the last box squad, and remembering that these squads are going to go back down to sort of being around, that 30-31 mark. Hopefully next year with the sort of the less impact of COVID-19. We hope we could still see big squads and stuff like that. But if we look at the makeup of the squad, so for example, we're looking at the backline, because obviously as a backline player, we went with 3 scrum halves, 2 fly halves, 3 midfielders, 4 outside backs, and 2 utility backs. Now, I think the word utility back is quite important in any discussion about somebody like Andre Esterhuyzen, because in the Springbok squad, especially with a 6-2 split, which is something we've seen quite a bit sometimes that we moved away from, the idea of a utility back has become paramount within the Springbok system. Now, you look at all the players in the squad, and pretty much every single player in the squad, bar, your scrum halves, and even then, Kobus can probably fit in the wing if he had to. And Damien Daleen is pretty much the only player who only fills one role. Every other player in the squad can play in more than one position, even if it's the case of being able to play on either side of the wing. Upper left fast, he can cover left wing as well as fullback, although we haven't seen him at fullback yet. Philly Maxwell and Pimpy Spoon course, they can all cover, either both wings. Really can cover wing and fullback. Even if you look at your midfielders, the Kanye can play on the wing if he has to. Obviously plays in the centers. Damien Daleen is pretty much your only, real specialist in the entire squad. So if you were to include Andre Esterhuyzen, because I think, the form, you can't ignore the form, he's 3 man of the matches in a row, you then have to sort of wonder, where does he fit in? Because you're not also dropping Damien Daleen. So if you were to include Andre Esterhuyzen, it would mean either dropping a midfielder in inverted commas in terms of, and the obvious one would be Jesse Creel, who again suddenly can also now play on the wing. There's an argument. Or else you'd be looking at the utility backs and dropping either a Damien Willems or a Francois Steyn. Now, the problem with dropping a Damien Willems or a Francois Steyn is that you don't only have one option for a 6-2 split. You'll only have one official utility back. So I think the biggest thing at the moment counting against Andre Esterhuyzen is his inability to play anywhere else, which is not a criticism of the player. The traditional game, in centers, you very rarely played multiple positions. There are lots of people who throughout their own career have only played one position. They've only needed to play one position. However, in the current Springbok setup, there does seem to be a very big emphasis on the idea of versatility and being able to play several positions. Now, Andre Esterhuyzen has played at times at fullback before, but we can all be, if you're all being very honest, much like Damien Daleen is very much a specialist number 12 at the moment. Doesn't even play outside centers, which I think is probably the biggest issue. I think if Damien Daleen were to be injured tomorrow, I think you'd call Andre Esterhuyzen immediately up, and he could very well walk into the starting lineup with the form he's showing. But I think that, probably the biggest thing counting against him, it's very much a like for like, and do you want to have 2 of the exact same player in your squad? And I think even, looking at developing depth in the future. Someone like Wanasila Similani is obviously in the cards, in part of the squad. Him having played those couple of games at fullback, all of a sudden makes him a much more exciting prospect for the Springboks. The idea that he can play in several positions. There seems to be a very big emphasis and a high price being put on players who can adapt and can play in several positions, which is a good and a bad thing. Because I think that sometimes, I think Damian Willemse's versatility is sometimes actually stunted his growth because we don't know what he is. You can't be a utility back for the rest of your career. Do you really want to be wearing the number 23 for the rest of your career? Any player will want to start. Whilst I've been saying for a while now, the idea of starters and finishers being your best and your second best players is long gone. Any player wants to start. It's going to take a very long time to be able to sort of get into your head that you are as important off the bench because of that sort of very old narrative and that sort of stigma and that mindset. So, it's a good and a bad thing that we have players who are versatile. I think certain cases versatility has stunted players' growth. But the biggest thing comes with what happens when Frans Steyn leaves, for example. Can you add in an extra centre, or do we need only 2 scrum halves potentially and add an extra centre? I think there can be space made for Andre Esterhuyzen, but the question becomes, if you create an extra space in the backline, is he the biggest thing we need? And I think I think we do need another centre in the squad. I think that centre for me is the biggest worry because I think if it's not the Kanya and it's not Damien Dealendi, who is it? I personally think Andre Pollard fills that can fill the number 12 role pretty well. And obviously people are back Van Steen and David Willemse. So they're thinking, we've got 3 people who can cover 12 without even having to name a specialist centre. And then the argument then becomes, does Andre Esterhuyzen do his job that much better than those 3 utility backs to be able to justify having him in the squad? So you can kind of understand where the selection sort of conundrums come, in that if you have this sort of conversations, yes, you understand he's an outstanding player, but is there space for him in the squad? I mean, you could have the best 4 tight heads in the world in the same nation. You're not going to pick all 4 for the sake of picking all 4 because they're so good. You have to sort of be limited. So I think that's probably the biggest reason. Now, this isn't necessarily what I think. I do worry about centre. I do think we need to look at centre depth. I would love to probably see Andre Esterhuyzen and Similani playing together in the SAA team in this year. Esterhuyzen 27 years old, so he's still a player who's got many years ahead of him. But I think the biggest issue is not a case of, we all know he's good enough to be in the Springboks. We all know he's in the form that he should be getting a call up. The question continues to be, at whose expense? Now, the obvious one is to go Damien Willemse, but then again, you lose that utility back, and you're taking the younger of the 2 utility backs, which with Frans Steyn, looking, I don't know when he's going to leave, but, maybe in the next World Cup. I have my doubts about him making the next World Cup, but if suddenly you lose Francois Steyn and Damien Willemse, then you're down without the utility back. If Francois Steyn were to retire, do you back Damien Willemse as your only utility back, or do you need to go and find somebody else who can fulfill that role? So there's quite a lot of different questions that need answering in the squad, and there's never going to be a right answer. But I hope that those just provide a couple of some of the reasons and maybe some of the conversations that have happened, which sort of explain why he isn't there. Although I do think that at this rate, he's going to become a case of you cannot pick him if he continues to play like he is. But I want to know what your thoughts are down in the comments. Do you pick him? Do you not pick him? If so, why? If not, why? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.